Okay, so this video is going over all sorts of different kinds of rulers that we have in our shop here, but in other shops you might go to elsewhere. So I'll start with this standard ruler here. So this is one that you would typically find in any kind of craft supply store or stationery store, or even your local grocery store would have them. So it's probably one that you've used as a kid in elementary school, junior high school, and all that. So just a really kind of cheapo plastic ruler. But it's pretty accurate for the most part. So this one's broken up into 1/8 increments, and it also has millimeters and centimeters down here. Typically speaking, in the United States, we use the standard system of measurement, so using the inches, feet, yards, etc., etc. If you go to other countries, metric would be the way to go, but for our purposes, we'll be using just standard units of measurement here. So again, it's broken up into 1/8 increments, and if you haven't seen my previous video about how to read a ruler, do brush up on it if you need to, and I go into breaking down each of what these increments actually represents. So again, this is pretty much your standard little plastic ruler here. We have another metal variety here. This happens to be 3 foot long, but it also has a nice cork back on it. So if you're working on something slick and you need a little bit of friction, that cork is going to be really nice surface to work with. This one's broken up into 1/16 inch increments. This is going to be a little bit more precise. So if you're making like a really precise drawing, or if you're making a piece of furniture and you really need to get precise measurements on it, then the 1/16 and even 32nd inch rules are going to be ideal. This one also has centimeters and millimeters on it, but again, we use standard unit of measurements here in the US. So that's a metal version here. Here we have a combination square. So this is essentially a metal ruler that's placed into this apparatus here. If I can get it back in. So this slides into place, and then you can lock it into place too. So what's nice about this one is that you have 1/16 inch and 1/8 inch increments here, so it'll work nicely as a pretty standard ruler. It's also got millimeters or centimeters on the back, and also 32nd inch, so that's pretty nice too. So you can get really precise with this. And another nice thing too is that it has both a right angle, so 90 degrees here, and it also has 45 degrees here. So I can take a piece of wood like this, and I need to draw a 90-degree line from that. I can just draw my line, and I have a perfectly square corner between my reference edge and my piece of wood here. And I can do the same thing with the 45. So if I'm cutting miters or something like that for a box, or miters for another type of wood joint, I can draw that 45 on there as well. And I can go this way or that way, right? So what's nice about these is that you have that nice shoulder here where you can rest this onto whatever surface that you're working on. It doesn't necessarily have to be wood, but it's really nice to have that nice shoulder here. All right. This one's sort of in that same vein. This one also has a nice shoulder on it on both sides. You'll find this is called a speed square. You'll find this more typically in like a carpentry setting or somewhere where you can't really get all that precise measurements, but you just want one simple tool that can help you find different key measurements on it. So it's got 90 degrees here, and it's also got 45 on each corner. And it's broken up into 1/8 inch measurements here, so it goes all the way up to 6 inches. Or 7 inches rather, excuse me. And it's also got degrees on here, so if you're looking for a particular angle, you can pivot from this little pivot point here and draw your line. So it also acts like a protractor too. So it's a really nice tool to have on hand. Again, because it's broken up into 1/8 inch increments, it's not going to be the most accurate, but if you're in a situation where you need a really quick measurement on something, this will do the job. Okay, I'll switch over to T-square here. So this is basically your regular metal ruler, but it's also got this little apparatus on the end here. So it's very similar to the combination square, where you can reference this onto a square edge and then draw lines accordingly. All right, so I can measure up to 5 inches here, and I have a nice square corner between here and here. What's nice about this particular one, it's actually got measurements here too. So if you need to measure up to 3 inches, then you can draw a nice square onto here as well. Or you can say you need to mark off 2 inch increments. I can mark a 2, move this down, move this down. So yeah, nice metal ruler here. Again, this one's broken up into both 1/8 inch and 1/16 inch increments. So it's So you can do real quick work with just the 1/8 inch or more precise work with the 1/16 of an inch increment. This one is a framing square or a carpenter square. So again, this is more on the job type tool. So if you need sort of in the same vein as the speed square. So it's broken down mainly into 1/8 inch increments. So again, really quick measuring. And usually has a 90-degree corner on the inside and the outside. It's really great because the length of it on one end is usually around 2 feet. Sometimes you can find them a little bit longer. So it's great if you're trying to find the square of something much larger, like on a construction site. It's a really handy tool to have. Skip to this one here. So this is kind of a strange looking triangular rule here. And this is specifically for architects. It's called an architect's rule. So it has a standard ruler on one part of it. But if you're needing to make a drawing for an architecture class where you need to make a scaled drawing of a building that you're planning on building, then you can use a 3/16 scale, you can use a 3/4 scale, so on and so forth. And it's got scales on either end of this. So it's really handy if you're making scaled work, or scaled drawings rather. And finally we have our handy dandy tape measure, right? So tape measures come in lots of different sizes and varieties. So this one I happen to like pretty nicely. This is a 12-foot ruler, so it goes all the way out to 12 feet, which I can't really represent here. But what's nice about it is I can pull this out and it'll stay in place. This is a self-locking one. And if I press this little button here, it'll just retract back. So again, I'm trying to measure this tool. I can bring this out, say that's 30 inches. Or here, I'll do this here. Bring it out here, 30 inches, and then just retract it back. So really handy for, like if you're going to a lumber yard and you need to measure a board really quickly to get the accurate length and width, then you can take one of these. It's really easy to have on hand. It's also got this little clip on it, so you can clip it onto your pants and have it ready to go wherever you're going. And this one is also broken down into 1/16 of an inch increments, but it's also got the fractional divisions of them, so which is also really handy. So if you can find a really good tape measure that's got that, then you're in the clear. So you should be good to go with any kind of ruler.